Oh, yeah, it's good. Yep.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm so glad you came tonight. Thank you for doing that. I'm excited about having Megan here from Eden's Glory. And Phil, it's good to have you here too. I'm really impressed with this organization and thankful for what they're trying to do and what they are doing. Before I turn it over to her, I want to tell you I have an article here from the Illinois Family Institute. It's about the comprehensive sexual education that's being pushed in our public school right now. And I felt like because this is a adults-only program, I could maybe pass these out tonight. I'm going to set them back on the Welcome Center. They'll only be there for just tonight. We're going to get rid of them after that. I don't really want them laying around. But this explains what's going on with this topic, what's being pushed in our public schools right now, and I'm really upset about that. But what Eden's Glory does, I'll let Megan say more about this, but what they do, they rescue people, boys and girls, right? I mean, mostly young ladies, but I know that it's a difficult task. I have some friends that are involved in an organization like this in Indianapolis, and they tell me that it's an 80% fail rate because of the challenges are such uphill battles. But what we're talking about tonight is internet safety right? That's the topic, because some of us we don't really understand the dangers and know how to cope with it. So I've asked the experts to come and give us this information. Thank you for caring enough to show up tonight. And I'm going to ask you, we are giving them a donation. If you want to give more than that, you're welcome to do that. Just let us know. We'll send them another check later. But please give Megan your full attention and pay close attention to what's going on and learn everything you can learn. Take notes if you can. This is a very, very important meeting tonight. So thank you for being here. Megan, come ahead. God bless you. Thank you for your time and effort. The hour-and-a-half drive. God bless you.
Hi, thank you guys for having me. Like Dan said, my name is Megan, and I am the clinical director at Eden's Glory. So that means that I kind of run the day-to-day of the program. I do a lot of the therapy and working through the trauma with our ladies, and have also started a new program in Eden's Glory that works with minors that I'll talk about. So just to give you a little bit more information, we can flip over to the next slide, and you can hit it 2 more times, I think. So Eden's Glory, we actually just celebrated our 6th birthday yesterday. So it took about 3 years for us to fully get Eden's Glory up and going after the Lord laid it on the hearts of 2 of our co-founders. Their names are Annie and Ginger. and they're both not from the area, but the Lord brought them to the same place and then just kind of laid on their hearts the issue of human trafficking. And they knew that they wanted to do something. They just weren't really sure what it was going to be. And after meeting, talking to each other, going out, talking to the community, they just kept hearing that there is a need for homes for survivors, that these women were getting rescued and there was nowhere for them to go. So with a lot of prayer, Annie and Ginger decided to start spreading awareness about human trafficking, and then out of the blue, someone called them and said, "We have a house for your program." And at that point, they were like, "What house?" We had not planned a house. But the people said, "Well, the Lord said you're doing a program, so we are giving you our house." So from then on, we have been able to start inviting women into the home. The Eden's Glory initial program that we have is for women between the ages of 18 and 30 who are survivors of human trafficking. And then our minors program, which I'll talk more about, works with anyone from 5 to 17, boys or girls. The root of Eden's Glory is Jesus, because he's the one who does all the healing. We can get there and do the best therapy and do the best coping skills, but Jesus is the one who gets into their life and changes them, and he's the one that transforms them and helps them get their lives back. So we want him to be the focus, the center point of all that we do, because we found when we try to do it our own way, it's just nowhere near as effective. You can go to the next one. So like I said, we followed this community-based action model of just checking in with our community. What is it that our area needs? And like I said, what we kept hearing was a home for survivors. And so we began connecting with different organizations. We began connecting with different hospitals and doctor's office, with different churches, with different foster care homes, and just looked at all the ways that we could kind of come around Eden's Glory and expand in different ways as well. You can hit the next one. So, like I said, the women that we're serving are between the ages of 18 and 30 at our home, at their home. We really want this to be a place that they can see as their own home. So many of them have come from just up and down kind of backgrounds. Some of them have been homeless, and so for them to be able to come in and have a safe place where they are getting food and care, and they don't have to worry about where they're going to sleep every night and who's going to be there, is just super meaningful. We want to just show them biblical hospitality that the Lord calls us to have. And so we can invite up to 5 women at a time to live in the home. And we just work with them day to day as they heal and as they meet Jesus. You can hit the next one. So we offer up to 2 years of free housing. The first year is really focused on them finding healing from their trauma. We do a lot of classes on codependency, on working through the trauma bonds that they've developed, on anxiety, depression, all these different kinds of things. And then the second year begins looking at, what do I want my life to look like now that I'm out of the game, now that I'm out of the life? And so we have ladies who finish their GED. We have ladies that do internships and get jobs. We have one lady right now who's taking full-time college classes to get her associates. And so it's really just seeing where they're at and what they want to do to help prep them to leave Eden's Glory and go out into the real world. We offer meals, healthcare access. We offer life and job skills classes. We do a lot of fun stuff along with the really hard therapy. So we do horseback riding and gardening, and we do skills like teaching them how to cook and how to eat a balanced diet and how to shop on a budget. We do one-on-one mentoring and spiritual support. So we start every day with devotions. We have lots of biblical classes throughout the day. One of our most meaningful has been, it's just called the Absolute Basics of Christian Faith. And so it comes in and just lays that foundation of who Jesus is and what he's done for them. We do internships and dignified work experience locally. So we had one resident who, it hit her second year and she had never worked outside of the sex work industry, had no idea what she wanted to do. And they went to several different places, and she wasn't quite finding what she wanted. And then they went out to a farm, and she just fell in love with those cows. They were talking about all the things that they got to do out there. They do a lot of like making cheese and making milk and this kind of stuff. And they're just telling her all about it, and she just fell in love with it. And she was like, I could get paid to hang out with cows all day. This is awesome. And so she ended up getting that internship and then getting a job there after she graduated and just really thrived there. And it was so cool. She'd come home and talk about helping the cows give birth because that was one of her big jobs. And she'd be like, I had my arm all the way. And I was like, nope, don't want to hear it. Not my cup of tea. And then we have individual therapy. We have group therapy with all the ladies together. We do offer family therapy. Up to now, we haven't had the opportunity to do that because none of our ladies have come in with healthy families, but we want to have that opportunity available for them. You can hit the next one. The new program that we started this year is Foster Kairos. And so we kept hearing from our women that in most cases their trafficking started before they turned 18. And for pretty much all of them, abuse in their life happened before they turned 18. And they said if someone would have noticed, if someone would have seen the red flags, if someone would have intervened earlier, I wouldn't be 28 starting my life over again. And so after hearing that over and over and over again, we're like, okay, well, obviously this is a need, let's do something about it. So we have created this program that works with minors who have had extensive trauma in their lives or who have been trafficked. We provide therapy to these kiddos, and we help partner with foster care agencies to train the foster parents to take these kids in. So we do trainings with these parents on stuff like suicide prevention, self-harm and challenging behaviors, how to connect with a kid who's been through trauma. And then with the kids, we do the one-on-one therapy to help them work through what they've been through. We ended up expanding to outside of just foster families now because we heard from people in the community that their kids had trauma or been at risk, but now were safe with their family. And so how could we continue to expand and grow? So that's kind of where we're going now. We're really excited about it. So yeah, minors who are at risk of being trafficked or trafficking survivors, and then support for the parents. And go to the next one. So through all of this, our number one posture is prayer, because the Lord is showing us where he wants us to go, and he's showing us what he wants us to do. And through all of it, he has been so faithful, and he has just moved mountains to show us what he wants us to do and where he wants us to go. I mean, obviously, if the Lord's going to plop a home right down in front of us and say, all right, do this, then we're going to do it. We want to do radical and biblical hospitality, invite these women in and love on them, and just show them who Jesus is. Recently, we have heard from 3 different ladies who left Eden's Glory, having not completed the program, having relapsed or just other difficult things, reached back out. And all 3 of them in this past month said, when I was at Eden's Glory, I was loved like I've never been loved before. And that's what we want to do. That's our goal. If they leave and they felt love and they met Jesus, then we did our job. We want to build community with our ladies and our residents because so many of them just haven't had a community before. They haven't had good relationships. And also just expand it to our community at large. How can we work with different organizations in our community? We attend Celebrate Recovery, which is kind of like a AA type of thing. Like I said, we partner with foster care agencies. Just what ways can we continue to build up our community? We learn together. I am not the same person that I was 2 years ago when I started at Eden's Glory, praise the Lord. Because I learn as much from these ladies as, well, probably more than they learn from me. Our goal is to be transformed together, to become more like Jesus together. And through all of it, we are trauma-informed, which I'll talk a little bit more about, and strength-based, which is really just how can we look at their strengths and pull those out of them. So we have several different staff around the table. We have our house staff, and so these are the ladies that do the weekends and evenings with our residents. They're the ones who teach them how to cook, who teach them how to grocery shop, who teach them how to shop for clothes on a budget, how to take care of a house. They do a lot of fun stuff too. They do movie nights and manicures and pedicures and facials and just show them how to have friends and what it means to live in community. Our program staff is myself and a few others, and we do the therapy, we do the trauma classes, we kind of work through what they've been through. The spiritual development staff, so that is headed by one of our co-founders who is a pastor. And so, like I said, they work through classes like the absolute basics of Christian faith. And then one of our really impactful classes is inner healing. So basically, sit down with two staff. One of them is in intercessory prayer, while the other one is just in conversation on, all right, Lord, what strongholds do we need to address today? What things in their life is getting in their way right now, and then addressing those. Life skills teachers, these are a lot of volunteers. We have volunteers who come in and teach ladies horseback riding and sewing and how to cook nutritious meals and just all this different kinds of stuff. Therapists trained in trauma and addiction with foster kairos, parent coaches, so the ones who are training the parents and also there to just answer the calls of the parents when they hit an issue with their kid and they're just like, I don't know what to do at this point. Mentors and host families. We have seen that our ladies who have host families are the ones who stay the longest at Eden's Glory. So host families are just people in the community who take them in and show them what a family looks like. So there are people who take them in and do weekend meals with them, who take them in and do holidays, who take them in and just hang out. Let them see what a healthy family looks like. Respite care, so our staff can get kind of burnt out with what we do. So having people be able to come in and step in so that we can take vacations and spend time with our families. Behind the scenes, volunteer staff, fundraising, awareness. We are funded by you guys. We're funded by our community. And then interns. We just hired a new intern this past week. She's a college student and super excited to get involved. So, like I said, Eden's Glory is moving forward because of people like you with support, but also just people who come in and feel the Lord calling them to work at a place like Eden's Glory, to volunteer at a place like Eden's Glory. So just to kind of start from the beginning of what exactly is human trafficking, there's two main types. You can go to the next slide. The first one is sex trafficking. So this is recruiting, harboring, transporting, getting a person for a commercial sex act, where the act is either induced by force, fraud, or coercion, or when the person's under 18. So basically when someone in some way has been pushed into the sex industry. The other type, on the next slide, is labor trafficking. So again, the same thing, harboring, transporting, obtaining a person for labor or services, again, through force, fraud, or coercion, for involuntary servitude, peonage, debt bondage, or slavery. This is broken down into three things. So there's the action, what a person does, the means, so how the person was coerced or forced into the industry that they're in, into the trafficking, and then what it's for. Force, a lot of times people are like, okay, that makes sense. They're literally forced into it with chains. Fraud, people are like, okay, yeah, I can get that one too. They think that they're signing up for something, but in reality, they're signing up for something else. Coercion's where it kind of gets tricky, and that's a lot of times where we get the gray area. And that's where a lot of times we can struggle with people saying, oh, well, they chose to be prostitutes, or well, they chose to do this work. They chose to be a stripper. When, if you look at their lives, I haven't met a single one of our ladies who chose to do any of this. They've been abused from young ages. They've been pushed into this. The way that their lives have gone have led them to having to do what they had to do to survive. And so that falls under the coercion. So on the next slide, you'll see that there's a rough estimate of around 27 million slaves in the world today. This is on the low end, because we just don't know. But studies do show that there's more slaves now than there's ever been throughout history. 80% of those slaves are women. 50% of them are children. It is a $150 billion industry, and so that's why it keeps going. That's why it keeps thriving. And it's the second largest criminal industry behind drugs and right before weapons. And the reason that it has just moved up the ranks of criminal industry is because women can be used over and over again. With drugs, you use it, it's gone, you got to get more. But with women, they can be used over and over, and the supply lasts longer. A lot of times people think, okay, well, trafficking happens elsewhere. It doesn't happen here. But the truth is that there's over 100,000 people in slavery just in the US. Again, a lot of times we'll say, okay, well, that's probably people who are brought to America. But only about 17,500 of that 100,000 are foreigners. The rest are people born and raised in America. The average entry age into trafficking for a girl is between 12 to 14 years old, and for a boy is between 7 to 9 years old. And it's heartbreaking to think that if this is the age that they're starting into the industry, at what age were they abused to begin with? At what age did they start to be groomed? At what age were they approached? The average life length once they enter into trafficking is 7 years. Most people don't live beyond 7 years once they enter the life. And then so many of these survivors from trafficking are foster kids and runaways. 1 in 3 kids who run away from home, within 48 hours, a trafficker will find them. It's like they just know. They have this sense. They know who is vulnerable and are able to approach them. So again, after learning these stats, that's where you're like, okay, we need to work with minors, especially with these foster kids and these kids who run away. We see it all over the place. Some of our ladies have worked in illegal massage or spa places, have worked in hotels or motels, escort services, online ads are booming. Residence-based commercial sex, so there are places that just have homes that they sell the women out of. Pornography is a huge area that trafficking comes out of. Domestic work, traveling sales, agriculture, healthcare, really it's everywhere. And you can go to the next slide. Yep, thank you. Vulnerabilities are opportunities for these traffickers to get these people into trafficking. They're looking for people who have little to no safety net, people who are immigrants, whether legal or illegal, because a lot of times they just don't know the community, they don't know the area, they don't know the language, limited English. People in poverty is a huge vulnerability. Natural disasters, this was one that I was really surprised to learn about. In a lot of cases, after a natural disaster, after a hurricane, tornado, traffickers are some of the first responders, even before some of the actual first responders, because they get in there and they try to take advantage of that opportunity. Family instability, so the kids are running away, or family loyalty. Like I said, almost all of our girls have come from broken families, and so that plays a part in it as well. Runaways, foster kids, kids with a history of abuse, kids who are insecure and have a desire for a relationship, kids who have access to a computer, kids who walk alone, and major highways. So again, some of these vulnerabilities are just huge. Every single one of our ladies who has come in has had childhood sexual abuse. And these are some common outcomes from women who have endured that. They can have affect regulation problems. Sometimes they can have trouble controlling their face and controlling their mood. So they may giggle a lot when something's not really funny, or they may get really upset when we're not really sure what exactly happened. Impulse control problems. They have trouble holding themselves back from doing certain things. Somatization, which basically means bodily symptoms of a psychological problem. So they can have a lot of stomach aches and a lot of headaches from their trauma, from the stuff that they've been through. Impaired sense of self and cognitive distortions, the way that they view themselves and the way that they view the world is impaired because of the ways that they've been treated. Negative coping techniques, drugs, alcohol abuse, emotional detachment, hypervigilance. A lot of our ladies come in not knowing how to have healthy relationships because of just the experiences that they've been through. And so some of the stuff that we do is teach them how to have healthy relationships, teach them how to get along with others. What do I do when I have a conflict with someone? How do I solve that in a biblical way? And basically through all of it, we need to understand that these outcomes, these coping tools, are from what they've been through. It's the way that they've adapted and the way that they've survived. And so how can we recognize them as ways that help them survive, but also teach them new ways moving forward? A huge question that people have is, why don't they just leave? If they are not physically forced to be there, why don't they just leave? You can go to the next one. Sometimes they may not speak English, or they may not be familiar with the US culture. A lot of times they have been horribly abused and threatened to be even worse, horribly abused if they run away. They distrust outsiders, especially law enforcement. Almost all of our ladies have been sold to members of law enforcement. So for them to imagine then going to a police officer and asking for help when they had just been sold to a police officer makes no sense to them. A lot of times they don't identify as trafficking survivors. They themselves will say that they're just in prostitution or just in a bad spot right now. Their current situation may honestly be better than where they were before. They could have had such a horrible home life that now at least they are making some money. Now at least they're able to go out and do some things. A lot of times traffickers will get these ladies addicted to drugs so that they have to come back, so that they have to continue to get money to buy the drugs. In many cases, this drug addiction starts at a very young age. They may just see that this is the way life is. This is what I was made for. We had one lady I was just talking to last week, and she said, I was abused sexually from a childhood on, and so I was just told, this is what you do with your life. This is what you were made for. So the idea of leaving the sex industry never even occurred to me, because it was just, this is what you're here for. They may fear for safety, themselves or their families. And in many cases, they have bonded to their traffickers in ways that's similar to Stockholm Syndrome, so similar to people who have been kidnapped. So human traffickers can look any way, be any person, from what you think of like the Hollywood Madame, to police officers, to men, to women. Our ladies have had all types of different traffickers, and so we don't really have an image or a picture of what one looks like. A lot of our ladies come in with health issues from being trafficked because preventative health care is basically non-existent for them. They're not getting help until it is the very last. They absolutely have to have it to survive. And even sometimes in those cases, they're not getting the proper help that they need. They're going to bring in makeshift doctors or someone who's their friend or buddy who can kind of check them out. Sometimes they do take them to the ER, but in most cases, they don't leave them alone. And so one of the things we do is we go out and we train hospitals, we train ER staff on how to pay attention to if someone comes in and there's a boyfriend who won't leave her side, who answers all the questions for her. Just things like that. How do we begin to pay attention and see those red warning flags? All of our ladies come in with mental health issues, substance abuse problems, addictions, trauma from the abuse that they've been through, depression, confusion, phobias, panic attacks, feelings of shame, shock, disbelief, and for a lot of them who have been trafficked here, just that cultural shock from being in a new country, of being brought to America, and all that they've seen of America is having been trafficked. A big question people ask us is, how do I know if someone's being trafficked? Some things to look out for are either history or current signs of abuse or neglect, having recent new possessions, especially if they have been in poverty for a while, if they're very fearful, anxious, depressed, Under surveillance, they're constantly checking in with someone. They are confused about where they are, where they're going. They're only allowed to talk to certain people. They work long hours, especially at night. They may not have their personal ID, their passport, their driver's license. They may not be very emotional, but they know a lot about what's going on. They have street smarts. For kids, they're missing school a lot of times because they're having to work through the nights. They're running to or from something. The stories that they're telling aren't making sense. They live with their employer at work. We've seen this in a restaurant that was near where my parents live. It was a Mexican restaurant, and somebody found out that all the staff were being forced to live there, and all of their documents and passports were being kept by the owners, and they were forcing them to pay them off for having brought them to the U.S., but they had added extra fees and all this stuff to the point where they would never be able to pay them off. And so they were living there, unable to leave, all of this. And so it was just an everyday person in the community who just went there all the time, paid attention, was like, I don't think something's right here, began making connections with the staff, and then was able to report that and get that found out. Tattooing, branding, so a lot of times they can be claimed in some way as property, and that's put on their bodies. Through all of this, important thing to remember is that trafficking is a symptom of a much deeper issue. It comes out of these undercurrents of poverty, of racism, of addiction, of broken families. So our goal is, yes, to treat the symptom, to come against human trafficking, but ultimately, if we want to get rid of things like this, we have to go down to the bigger issues. We have to address injustice in all areas. And so there's so many ways that people can do that, and so many ways that we can, through our own jobs, through our own experiences, through our own lives, work to combat injustice that in some way is going to be combating human trafficking. A lot of times, people who have been through significant trauma can be seen a certain way. They'll be seen as being very aggressive, or not having a lot of focus, or just being very closed off, avoiding a lot. And so it can be difficult to work with people who have experienced trauma because they have such a guard up, because they've been hurt so much in their lives. They have tried to trust and been burned over and over and over again. So for them to come to Eden's Glory, for them to come to Foster Kairos, and for us to try to show them love, it's hard because they have their guards up, because there's been so many people who have tried to show them love in the past and then used it against them. And so through the aggression, through the avoidance, through the lack of focus, our goal is to love them deeply and to show them who Jesus is. Like I said, all of our ladies have been through some type of trauma. This could be physical abuse, sexual abuse, accidents, death, domestic violence, family violence. ACEs are adverse childhood experiences. So these are having these types of things before you turn 18. There's actually a study that we do with our kiddos who come in and with our ladies where we look at the number of ACEs that they've had before they turned 18. And almost all, if not all of ours, are like 10 and above because, again, these ACEs, these traumas make them vulnerable. So what do we do knowing that they've come from such a background of trauma? Trauma-informed care basically means understanding the impact that trauma has had on them. And so it's recognizing that the way that they're acting is coming from the long history of trauma that they've had. Like I talked about, it's because they've been burned, it's because they've been hurt, it's because they've been used and abused so many times. And so when they come into us, they're going to behave a certain way, they're gonna act a certain way, they're gonna have certain coping skills, and our job is to recognize that that has come out of a way to survive. So some basic tenets of trauma-informed care. We want to change our questions from what is wrong with you and how can we fix you to what happened to you and how can we help you heal. A great example of this is one of our first graduates from Eden's Glory. She was in the hospital, 9 years old, having had her third miscarriage. And all the doctors had come in every time and said, what is wrong with you? Why are you 8 years old and pregnant? What is wrong with you? And it wasn't until a nurse came in and said, what happened to you? Because no 9-year-old should be having a miscarriage. That she began to think, okay, maybe this isn't my fault. Maybe something is going on. And so that's what we want to do when they come to us, is not look at them and say, what is wrong with you? Why are you acting that way? Why are you yelling? Why are you addicted to drugs? But saying, what has happened to you that has caused you to have to find these things to survive? We want to have empathy, not sympathy, not poor you, I'm going to stand over here and pat you on the head, but how can I walk alongside you? How can I live with you and show you Jesus? We want to recognize that there's so many things that are at play, and it's not just them. There are so many things that have happened in their past that are being transported to what's happening right now, that even if I can't understand it, I need to recognize that. And ultimately, to understand that healing happens in relationship. I was reading this book, and it said that abuse happens in relationship, and so healing has to happen in relationship too. And that just made so much sense to me, because so often our ladies will come in and they are like, I'm going to get the healing I need, and I'm going out, and I'm going to be on my own. I'm not going to have anybody because I can't trust anybody. But the truth is, if people are to really fully heal from what's happened in their past, they have to be in relationship with other people to get to that point, to be able to foster those connections and those relationships and heal. So with trauma-informed care, like I said, we want to recognize that their normal is going to be very different than our normal. And so them coming into our normal, for them is going to be super weird, and it's something they're going to have to adapt to. We want to build safety. We want to build trust and be very transparent. We want to work with them, come from a place of humility. We want to empower them. We want to give them voice and choice in what they're doing and the decisions that they're making. We do not want to take things personally. This one's hard. But recognize that in most cases, they're not actually really mad at me. I may remind them of someone from their past. They may just be pushing me away because I'm getting too close. We need to be patient, remain calm. And we need to embrace silence and recognize that their lives have been such chaos that for them to be in a place of silence is really, really healing. So, recognizing that effects are a normal response to an abnormal situation. They have adapted the way that they've needed to survive. We need to recognize that a lot of times they come in with adverse health outcomes. We need to recognize a lot of times they come in with stunted brain development. Studies show that people who have been abused, if they don't get the help that they need, a lot of times emotionally stop aging at that point. So if someone was abused at the age of 8, in a lot of cases, if they're not getting the help they need, they're going to stay emotionally at around 8 years old. And so how can we recognize that and help them while we recognize that? Recognize that stress hormones lead to hypervigilance. They are on edge. They are going to be very suspicious of us and our motives. They're going to be introverted in a lot of cases, very guarded. They're not going to want to let people in. So how is this related to our communities? Like we talked about, the average entry age for girls is 12 to 14 and 7 to 9 for boys. Like we talked about, 100,000 people in trafficking here in America. Like we said, 1 in 3 kids run away or are approached by a trafficker within 48 hours. 1 in 5 kids between the ages of 10 to 17 have received a sexual solicitation over the internet in the past year. 1 in 33 of those kids had an aggressive sexual solicitation, so threats, asking them to meet, calling them, sending them things. In a lot of cases, 9 to 5 is when these kids are being accessed, and 3 to 5 is prime time because that's when kids get home from school, and a lot of times it's before parents get home from work. So, as Dan said, a huge part of this is internet safety. So we want to recognize the ways that we can help kiddos to use the internet safely. There are ways that has to do with trafficking, but also just in general. The internet and using your smartphones and social media is shown to be highly addictive. It has dopamine levels similar to drugs, alcohol, gambling. There's actual physical changes that happens in your brain as you get addicted to social media. Relationships a lot of times are diminished as you're having more and more relationships online and less relationships in person. And people who are addicted to social media and to their phones have heightened anxiety, depression, PTSD, again, making them vulnerable. One of our ladies who went through our program wrote this poem and drew this picture. She said, at 14, I was on birth control. At 14, I had more partners, boyfriends, than I had fingers and toes. At 14, I learned that I could use my body to make ends meet. At 14, I was abusing my self-worth by selling myself to anybody I wouldn't dare being with for free. At 14, the generational curses had weaved themselves into my mind and had become my stronghold. At 14. So, again, this is happening to our youth from a young age. This picture that she drew that's her pimp behind her, and then the barcode that she's sitting on is beginning to break as she is recognizing her worth. As you can see from the poem, it's still happening, still changing. There's still statements like, I was abusing my self-worth. So there's a change of mindset that has to happen, that has to come for them to recognize that they were coerced into this. But mainly just want you guys to recognize, like, with almost all of our ladies, the abuse and trafficking happened from a young age. We have done talks like this all over, and we have had several case scenarios that have come up from people who just stop us afterwards and talk about people that they know who are either being trafficked right now or who have been trafficked. These are also scenarios that our ladies have just told us coming through. Families are doing the trafficking. That's just what you're supposed to do for your family. A mom started talking about her kid started coming home late. She thought she was on drugs. Came to find out that her boyfriend was pimping her. She's a good kid. She goes to youth group in church. She just wanted a boyfriend. The boyfriend ended up using her and abusing her. Sexting rings through making people send photos and interact in different ways through that. One of our survivors said, they know what you want, and then that's who they are. If you want a boyfriend, they're your boyfriend. If you want a dad, they become your dad. They ask you to do one small thing when money gets tight. They're so sorry, it'll never happen again. And ask for more, and ask for more, and ask for more, until you're just trapped in it. It starts so small until you don't realize how bad it's gotten. So, a huge part of protecting our community is online safety. So much trafficking happens online. A big way that it's going on now is sugaring or sugar dating. Some of you guys may have heard of people talking about having sugar daddies or having sugar babies. At this point, in some ways, this is being advertised like it's a normal everyday thing. There's been billboards put up of, need to pay for your college? Call da-da-da-da-da, and we'll get you a sugar daddy. There are different ads that pop up. Why hope for financial aid when you can guarantee it with a sugar daddy? Get a sugar daddy before you get deported. There's all these things that are reaching out, trying to find these vulnerable people. So I am going to kind of just walk through some of the common social media apps today and just point out some of the issues with some of them that we can just begin to be aware of. I recognize social media is not, horrible and of the devil and all this stuff. I have Instagram, I have Facebook. I know that it can definitely be used for good. It can be used for connection, to keep up with your family and for people that you've moved away from. But we need to recognize that social media and apps can also be used for bad in many situations, and that for kiddos and teens whose brains haven't fully developed yet, who haven't yet gotten to the point where they're able to link cause and effect, they're going to need help, and they're going to need parameters, and they're going to need guidance moving forward. So, you can go to the next one. A huge app right now is TikTok. Some have reported it as the most dangerous app out there. You're able to post videos, but there's few requirements and few safety measures. And they say they have age requirements, but they're not fully monitored. WhatsApp, you can send messages, videos, and pictures. Again, vague limitations on what's allowed and what's not, and it's easy to get around the age requirements. Vulti, this stores photos and videos in an app in your phone that you have to have a password to get into. Snapchat, this allows you to send photos or videos, and then it self-destructs after a certain amount of time. Snapchat has actually grown into a thing called Snap Porn, and it's the #1 sexting app that people use, and pornography is starting to be more and more saved on it. Now you can do screenshots, you can take pictures of the thing before it disappears, and so many times teens will think, oh, it's harmless, it'll disappear after 5 seconds, it's just, you know, a funny little thing, not knowing that the other person can still save it, can still take a picture of it, and then use that. Burn Note, again, erases messages after a set period of time. So you can have text messages in your phone, and then they just keep getting erased, so that when parents check their phone, they can't see it. Kik doesn't allow parental controls, and so it's frequently used for sexting. It doesn't authenticate users, and so it's easy for people of any age to get on there and say that they are any age. So it's easy for kids to get on there and say that they're 19. It's easy for 42-year-olds to get on there and say that they're 8. Line is a hidden chatting, sharing photos and videos, texting, video calls. Again, it hides it. Whisper, this is completely anonymous, and it just shows you people who have the app around your GPS location, and then just lets you talk to them. Omegle just lets you chat with random strangers online. Ask is where you can go in and ask anonymous questions. A lot of times kids will use that because they want to ask things that they may not feel comfortable asking their parents or asking their friends. But it can be really dangerous and has been led to several documented cases of suicide. It's been led to bullying and inappropriate questions as people respond to the questions that these kids are asking. Blender, again, uses your GPS service and finds people around the area and lets you message them, send photos, videos, rate the hotness of the people in your area. Again, no authentication requirements. You can put that you're any age. You can put any picture up that you want to. Tinder, used for hooking up. It allows people to rate and, again, finds other people who have the app around your GPS location. Yik Yak, it's similar to Twitter, but it's anonymous. So again, in your GPS area, people can post things without being able to say who it is. And so this is used a lot with bullying, as it was popular when I was in college, and it's coming back again, sadly. And so during college, it can be all the people who are in your college posting about certain things without it showing who they are. And so a lot of gossip can go around, a lot of really harmful and hurtful things can go around. IMVU, this is a virtual universe where you can make a profile and have relationships. It requests personal information, and a lot of times people can then meet other people through the virtual universe, and to the point where they end up hanging out outside of the virtual universe. It is highly addictive, and a number of our ladies have talked about how this was an entryway for them. The numerous hookup apps that are out there, Down, Tinder, Wicker, this again has IMing that self-destructs, and it has encrypted messages. Photo swap, so it lets you put in a picture and you swap a picture for somebody else. After school, it's for youth, and it has a lot of explicit content on it. These apps are very common to allow you to take pictures and videos without other people noticing. So it looks like your screen's off and it's black, but in reality, you're able to photo and take videos. So again, this can be used a lot of times for blackmail with these kiddos in the future, with these teens. Voxer, it's not connected with a mobile service provider. So kids, teens can get onto inappropriate contact and it won't show up, or content, and it won't show up on your bill because they're going through Voxer to get to these other things. The default setting is public, so unless they go in and make it private, people are able to zoom in and find their location on that. Telenym offers unmonitored access to internet. And again, because it's on unmonitored access, there's just a plethora of things that can go wrong with that. Tumblr, it is a popular blogging platform, so people get on and they use it like their diary in a lot of cases. But child porn has been found on it. It's also a very easy platform to just talk about suicide, self-harm, bullying, all these things, because again, kids are getting on, treating it like a diary, not recognizing that other people are getting on and reading it, and also that they're getting on and reading other people's most intimate things that they're trying to process through. YOLO, this is an app through Snapchat that allows for anonymous questions and answers again. You can answer the questions even if you don't have the app. It encourages teens to send malicious messages. Cyberbullying is very common again. Again, there's anonymity. There you go. And so a lot of times for teenagers who haven't fully gotten the impulse control part of their brain fully developed, can do things that they otherwise wouldn't normally do if they think that it won't be connected back to them. These hidden apps, so these are password protected apps that even if you have the password for your kid's phone, you can still get on these apps, and then you have to have a specific password to get onto these. Sometimes they can be disguised as other things. There's one that looks like a calculator. There's one that looks like an audio manager. And so, again, if you're checking your kid's phone, you're just like, oh, okay, that's a calculator. You don't even click on it. But in a lot of cases, it is a protected app that has text messages and videos and pictures that shouldn't be on there. There's certain settings that make apps disappear. There's jailbreaking or rooting, and it allows people to hack their own device and to lift restrictions that have been put on phones, so parents can put parental restrictions on the phone. And then there are different ways that kids can jailbreak their phone and then lift the restrictions back off without the parents knowing. Emojis, it's important to stay on top of knowing what the emojis are. I won't go through all of these, but just recognizing that they are used a lot and recognizing the ones that can be used during sexting or can be used negatively. Also knowing internet lingo, you can go one more, yep. So recognizing what things may stand for. Parents are listening, parents are watching, parents over shoulder, let's meet in real life, get naked in front of the camera, rape me, date me, hate me, all these types of things that's important if you are looking through your kid's stuff, where normally you would just be like, oh, okay, well, you know, POS, I don't know what that means, but recognizing that it means, you know, oh, my parent's here, don't send anything you're not supposed to. Again, what to watch for with these kiddos, change in behavior. This can be for kiddos who also may just, you know, maybe getting bullied, and kids who may have sent things that they wish that they wouldn't have sent, and now it's being held over them in some way. They may be being blackmailed in some way. Recognizing, again, if these kiddos are having new belongings, expensive gifts, if they're sleeping more during the day, if they seem on edge, look out and just pay attention for more passwords on phones, increase in data usage, missing parts of messages, or missing browser history. So there's also ways that people can search stuff on the computer and then erase it from the history, and so you can go back and check, but it's disappeared, like they haven't searched for it. If they're continuing to isolate and just continuing to pull away, again, some of these things are going to be normal for teenagers. Teenagers are going to isolate. They're going to change their behavior. But it's being aware of it and being able to address these things as they come up and being able to talk about these things with your kids. So what is our response? There's a big push right now for wait until 8th or longer. So basically, wait until 8th for your kids to get a phone. I know that this is hard in this day and age. It's hard as, these second graders are coming home and saying, Bobby has an iPhone, why can't I have an iPhone? And as kids are getting more and more into different activities, it can make it easy for them to be able to reach you if, soccer practice goes long and things like that. But it's kind of weighing out those pros and cons. Linking your email or iCloud with their apps. So this means anytime that they download an app, it has to go through you first. You can see everything that they download. Circle, so this restricts screen time, and it shows you what they're spending their time on, and it can show you their location. Having strict privacy settings on your kiddo's phone. Having computer use in a central location of your house, so it's not in their bedrooms or it's not down in the basement, places where they may feel like they don't have eyes on them. Again, having open combos with your kids, teaching them that once they post, it's out there. They can go back and delete it, but the internet is forever. Letting them know that people can screenshot things and that people can get through onto certain things even if you make it private. Setting up age limits on your kid's device. Helping them find a healthy mentor, so helping them find someone who they can go to if they don't want to go to mom and dad about something, but still someone who's safe and can help them as they walk through these things. Turning off the GPS locator on apps, games, photos, so on these random apps that they're on, people aren't able to zoom in and see their GPS location. Go through what they've downloaded, go through their history. Have parental controls on their devices. Don't allow access to credit cards. This is also just good for even young kids because I have known a number of kids that have accidentally bought, $200 worth of games through their parents' iCloud account. Encourage your kids, if they are seeing inappropriate behavior, to report that because that just helps make it safer for others. And just keep up. Again, we made this several months ago, and so I'm sure some of these apps are already outdated. I'm sure there's a ton of new apps that aren't even on here yet. I did a training a month or two ago on OnlyFans and the dangers and harms of OnlyFans, and so it's keeping up, being aware of what's going on, being willing to say, okay, I don't know what this app is. Get out your phone and Google it, see what it is. Be able to talk to other parents and say, have you allowed your kid to download this? What have you seen with this? And really paying attention to, do these apps allow parental controls? And if they don't, not putting them on there. And these responses are not, you don't have to hide them from your kids. It's having these open, honest conversations with your kids and saying, okay, the internet has so much stuff on it out there that this is for your protection, and let's do this together. And so using these apps with your kids knowing. Again, it's also just that accountability of, if mom sees the apps that I'm downloading, I'm not going to download apps that I don't want mom to see. Have different, My Spy, again, can show you what's going on with your kids. Again, I'm not encouraging you to download it without them knowing. I really encourage you to download it and have conversation with them about it. We do this with our residents when they hit year 2. We slowly stair-step them into getting a phone and getting internet and getting social media. And through it, we have parental controls that we keep on it, and we are in constant conversation with them. Because we've seen when we haven't done that, and we just give them a phone, in a lot of cases it goes really, really bad because it just brings up old things, and it is just a very private place that a lot of times you can forget about accountability. Use things like Common Sense Media, Safe Smart Social, be able to look up these different apps, see what's going on, and using those parent controls. So there's 3 ways that a lot of times we can address human trafficking. One is prevention. So this is internet safety. This is paying attention. This is programs like, we have one in our community called the Simple Room. And so this is for at-risk kids or kids in poverty to go to after school. Programs like, I think it's the YMCA that has Big Brother, Big Sister, that has mentoring, that has people that can step in and be someone for these kids who may not have the parental support, the mentors that others may have. And honestly, being a nosy neighbor, being that person that is looking out for people in your neighborhood. You know, who are the kids who have very little parental supervision? And how can I, in some way, become a safe person for them? How can I see my kids' friends and see who may need some extra parenting in their lives as well? When I was growing up, I think every meal we had somebody extra at our table, and my parents would just parent them as well, because a lot of times we would bring home friends who parents worked all day or came from broken families, and so our parents would talk to them about these things too. So they'd sit down, talk to us about internet safety, and they'd be like, bring your friends, and then we'd have a little powwow around the table. Awareness. So raising awareness out in the communities. We speak at churches, businesses, healthcare providers, hospitals, police officers, schools. If you have connections, please let us know. We love to spread awareness. Advocate for changes in your community, in your area, with legislation. And then finally, restoration. So Eden's Glory has served 22 women so far in the past 6 years. And through it, we, like I said, our goal is to love these women and help them meet Jesus. And if they've done that, then we've done our jobs. Several ladies who have gone through our program have made comments like, it's not a program, it's a way of life. So it's not just coming here and I do the steps that I have to do to get out, but it is creating a family, it is creating community, and it is reorienting the way that your life is going. Encouraging them to build their relationship with Jesus and helping them meet Jesus. One resident said, I see Jesus and he's smiling at me and telling me to dance. So what are the ways that we can help them come to know the Father who loves them so deeply? We had one resident who left Eden's Glory and went back to her old life. But she said, I went back and I wasn't the same. I couldn't be in that environment. I just couldn't do it anymore. I'm different now. I can't go back to who I used to be. So even though she left Eden's Glory and originally went back to the life, she ended up pulling herself back out of the life, going to other programs, and is now living on her own, going to school, has a full-time job, and is just doing really well. And so again, it's planting those seeds. It is recognizing that we, a lot of times, aren't going to see the fruit that comes out of it. Like Pastor Dan said, there a lot of times is a very high % fail rate of these women that don't make it through the program. In the past 6 years, we have had 2 women fully graduate because it's hard. It is hard to heal from the trauma that they've been through. It is hard to have a new way of life. It is hard to work through the horrible things that have happened and then move forward in a way that you never could have imagined. And so, again, our goal is to love and to just help them meet Jesus, because he is going to bring that fruit up. And it may not be when we see it, and it may not be in our timeline that we want, and it may not be at a place and a situation that we'd be like, this would be great, let's see the fruit right now. But we know that he is faithful and that our ladies are encountering him, and so he's going to use that for their good later in life. So things that you can do. We are always looking for prayer warriors. So this is people, if you feel like the Lord is just calling you to pray specifically for Eden's Glory, we have specific prayer warriors when we have a crisis out at our home, when we have a resident who is really struggling with suicidal ideation, when we have a resident who maybe is having flashbacks and doesn't recognize where she is right now and has taken off and is running away, as we have residents who are having horrible nightmares and trying to work through the trauma they've been to and it's seeping into their everyday life, we send out text messages to our prayer warriors, and we just ask you guys to come around us during those times, and it has made a huge difference. and it has made some awesome breakthroughs during these times of trauma and distress and chaos. When we send out that prayer to our prayer warriors, God uses these moments for major breakthroughs. Become or support a foster family. Again, like we talked about, a huge percentage of kids who have been trafficked were in foster homes. And so being a safe foster home or supporting one, because honestly, it's real hard to be a foster parent. And they need all the support that they can get. So how can you come alongside them and help carry the load in some way? Again, being nosy. Where do kids hang out unsupervised? How can I be someone in my community who is aware and who is committed to looking out for these teens and for these kids who may not have someone else who's looking out for them? Host trainings, look beneath the surface. Sponsor a child in other countries. Clean up your supply chain. There's a really cool app that you can get on your phone, and it shows you a rating of the different things that you may be buying to show you if it has trafficking that's happening with it, if it's hurting the environment. It has a whole bunch of different things that it looks at. So I downloaded this probably about a year ago, and I was a huge Coke drinker. I loved Coca-Cola, and I can clarify. And I got this app, and I looked it up, and it turns out that Coca-Cola is like a D or an F. It has a lot of human trafficking that happens with it. It has a lot of harms to the environment. It has a lot of unethical things going on. And I was like, oh no. So I looked up Pepsi, and Pepsi was a B. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll switch to Pepsi. And so just recognizing, okay, what can I use that is going to be better for our community, that's going to be better for our world? Advocating amidst your circle of influence. So spreading this news to other parents, spreading this news to other people, helping raise awareness, letting people know how to just be safe. We are looking for in our area for the Lord to help raise up a short-term crisis home. So our home is a long-term restoration home. So once someone has gotten out of the life and they've decided that they want to change and get out of it, then they come to a home like ours where they spend 2 years. But there's also a need for the short-term crisis homes, for those homes where they call the police and they say, I need a place to go right now. The reason we have had to separate those two is because it's really hard for the women in the long-term home to have women come in for the short-time emergency care. It just creates a lot of chaos, and it's hard for the women who are healing to have that going on when they've had that so much in their lives. So there are a few short-term crisis homes, but we need more. We are constantly getting calls for short-term crisis care. And to be able to have a place that we can send those calls to would be amazing. And overall, just loving deeply. Being someone who loves your community, loves your kiddos, loves your family, loves your church, and just wants to spread awareness. Ways to engage, like I said, sign up to be a prayer warrior. We have monthly donors, so there are certain amounts of money that buy a certain amount of things for our residents for each month. So $60 helps 1 week of prescription meds for a survivor. $100 a month helps pay for the propane bill for our house, just things like that. Volunteer with us. We're always looking for volunteers, and we very much want to partner it with what you feel the Lord's calling you to do. So that may be coming in and, like I said, being a host family, so bringing them into your home and loving on them and doing holidays with them and showing them what a healthy mom, dad, kid dynamic looks like. It may be you are really good at sewing, and so you want to come in and teach a sewing class. You're really good at organizing, so you want to come in and teach them how to organize. On Amazon, if you go to smile.amazon.com and pick Eden's Glory, every time you order something on Amazon, a certain percentage of it goes to Eden's Glory. So it does nothing for you. So it's just adding this on, and it actually can rack up the money pretty well. My parents did it last year, and through just their Amazon orders, over $100 ended up going to Amazon or to Eden's Glory through that. Donating items. paper goods, season passes to fun things. We want to take them out and show them the fun things in life. We want to take them to the lake and the beach, and we want to take them to the fair, and we want to take them to the movies, and we want to take them to experience all these things that so many of them haven't experienced before. We want to have huge birthday celebrations because a lot of our ladies have not had their birthday celebrated. We want to be able to party and celebrate with them. Giving gift cards for meals or clothing, helping donate to our house. We are looking to expand. So we have bought the property that our house is on, and it is over 5 acres. We are super excited about it, and our goal is to turn it almost into like a mini campus. So we want to have a gym and different levels of housing and different classrooms for their therapy. And we're looking to build a new home on there that's even bigger so that we can bring in even more ladies. All right, the next is a quick video, if you're able to play it.
Eden's Glory is a home.
It's a home and a place to be loved and belong.
To come and to heal and to restore. The best calling.
Definitely worth it. Different from anywhere else.
Eden's Glory is a wonderful place.
Eden's Glory is a home
Where survivors of human trafficking
are restored to thrive.
for the praise and glory of God. It started with myself and a couple other people coming around my dining room table and just talking about the issue of human trafficking and praying forward what we're going to do about it. Society calls it prostitution, but the reality on the streets is that in the prostitution business, a woman isn't on the streets of her own free will.
They come from an eat or be eaten world, and I don't know how to nicely put that, but they have to survive somehow. And so they have to make hard decisions that I can't imagine making, and that makes them very vulnerable to people who are just waiting to take advantage of them and exploit them.
The idea of a restoration home came and we all kind of panicked, but also it just resonated. And so September 2015, we opened our doors to the first resident.
Healing is not something that people want. People want to do things that they used to, and healing was something that was never something I experienced before.
I do not have food, but I have kisses. I have kisses.
I think a lot of people have the misperception that Eden's Glory is just a like transitional home for them to stay at that's secure, but it's so much more than that. It's a whole restoration program for them. They get access to therapy and to life skill training and to job training and people who will help them pursue their education.
This is that awesome job I have, and I get to work with animals. Jersey cows, they are so cute. The whole thing about it is like I'm happy to go to bed.
And even though the process and progress can be slow, you all of a sudden like turn around and they're becoming a whole new person.
They're never just going to be a number. They're never going to be some piece of paper that is, being passed off to someone else. We are literally living with them. Like I stayed overnight, we exfoliate together, we talk about guys, we watch silly movies, we listen to music together, we talk about shared interests.
One of the residents looked at us and said, this isn't a program. This is a way of life. And it's like, yeah, that's what we want, right? Because if it's a program, then I graduate and go back to life. But if this is how we live in community, we live with love and respect and dignity and hope, then that just carries on.
It's God's angel working. That's the only way I can describe it. Everybody is not in it for the money. People are in it because God had put stuff in their heart, and they love doing it.
So, yep, that's us. That's Eden's Glory. We encourage you guys to stay in touch. We have a Facebook page where we post a lot of updates of what's going on. So like we just had our birthday party and posted about that. One of our residents is learning how to drive, and so we've posted about her journey with driver's ed. We have an Instagram. You can go to the next one, and it has those on there, where we post pictures, not of our ladies, because we don't want to put that out there for them, but just about what's going on, again, keeping people updated. This is our website. This is our phone number, and at the bottom is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Great number to have in your phone, just in any of those moments when you're like, okay, something here doesn't seem right. Who should I call? It's a great number to call. Yeah, so have a few minutes. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to chat with you guys about that.
So there was an app you talked about with that told us what kind of Coke to drink.
Oh, yes.
What was that app?
Yes, wrong phone.
Somebody was asking what the app was. We got to figure that out.
Oh, there it is. It's called Better World.
Better World.
Yep.
Okay, and that's just an app you could get on the App Store.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Better World. All right, very good.
Yep.
I have a question. I've watched the Fox and what happens. I've watched Fox and what happens on their network. One of the things that bothers me a lot is we've had so many people come illegally across the border, and they started sending children alone, 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, and they made it clear that the traffickers were sexually molesting the small children, which has to be an extremely tough thing to deal with. And so, you know, is anybody receiving some of those kids? Because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there are different homes in the U.S. that take in minors, and so there are programs like ours, but they take in minors. There's also people who are doing what we're doing, so partnering with foster care agencies, training foster parents, taking these kiddos who have had this kind of trauma. There's different organizations that are popping up down around the borders to kind of help address this issue, try to create safety for these kids and for their families. But unfortunately, a lot of stuff like that, we're going to see the outcomes later on. And so, for instance, the Super Bowl is a huge time when people are trafficked, and every time there's a Super Bowl, our phone is ringing because of women that they've rescued who need to go into homes. So it's definitely an issue and a need that we need more and more places to be able to address that.
Right. Any other quick questions? All right. So to become a prayer warrior, how do we get on that?
Yeah. So I have business cards over in my bag, so I can set those out. My email's on there, so you can just shoot me an email and we'll get you signed up with that, get your number on the list. If you want to start getting our newsletters where we have updates and stuff like that, we can start sending those to your emails as well.
How many
like
of you are interested in becoming a prayer warrior like that? How many? Let me see your hands. How many of you? Okay, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
It'd be awesome.
So let's get that information, all right? Praise the Lord. Any other quick questions? Thank you very much. John is going to do this right now. Our children have been raising money for the last change, and we have here $1,000 to give to Eden's Glory.
Oh,
from
my
our
goodness.
kids raising this money for the last several months.
Well, that's
So I'm
awesome.
excited about that.
Yeah,
right?
that's
So,
super meaningful from the kids. That's
very,
awesome.
Very, very meaningful from us too.
Yes.
Thank you for what you do.
Yes. Well,
Let's
thank
give her
you.
a hand. She did a powerful job. A powerful presentation, wouldn't you say? Stop and say thank you, greet her, talk to her. There's a lot of us, so you'll have to, just greet her and get the card and thank her and move along, and that would be good, right? But we can get online. You can get online and follow Eden's Glory. It's they've got a really beautiful website. I'm so thankful. I met one of those. I met that the lady on there. She's got a powerful testimony. Thankful. She couldn't come tonight. She was talking about coming, but then had some other commitments. Wasn't able to make it. Probably had some cows to take care of. What a blessing. What a blessing. I'm glad you've been here tonight. It's kind of emotional, wasn't it? We can do things, what I was saying this morning, at a capillary level. We can do things at a small level. We can do things one at a time. We can do things. If you have YouTube and you have teenagers, go back and watch this and write down all those apps. I don't know if you have a printout of all those, but all those apps you need to watch. I'm going to tell you something. Some of those apps I've never heard of before, but some of them, there's no good on them. So clean those out. You know what I'm saying? Make sure your kids don't have those kind of apps on their phones. Invest in a typewriter, right? Manual typewriter. Let them text back and forth the old way. In the encyclopedia. Oh, whoops, we don't have those anymore, do we? Oh, my goodness. Well, let's bow for prayer. Father, thank you so much for these people that are doing this work for you. God, it's a hard work. My goodness, my heart goes out to them. We want to be a support to them. We want to be a help to them any way we can. And God, I pray that you'd show us what to do and how to do it. As we begin here building a relationship with this ministry and helping them in this, a little financially with prayer, God, I pray that you'd help us also to be able to take the things that we've learned and spread it around our community and protect the kids in this community. Lord, as we think about the kids around here that have no support, and heart breaks when we think about what they're exposed to. And Lord, we want to build a fence at the top of the cliff. We want to help with the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, but we want to stop kids from falling into this. So help us, give us wisdom as we go forward from here. May you bless this effort tonight. And the folks that are watching online, God, I pray that you would use this to spread through our area. And we'll thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you. You're dismissed.